Okay, so we put a video here together to highlight the hinge and the hold, hinge and fold versus wide and shallow with our FLYT sleeve. So this is obviously the method that Phil Mickelson has adopted throughout the years. And look, this is a method that can be effective for anyone if you've got the hours and hours and hours it takes to be consistent. So you can see here, as the club folds up, what you're actually doing is really de-lofting the club face unless you fold, which we'll see in the next video. So what happens if you maintain that angle is you're de-lofting it, the ball's going to fire off the club face, and more often than not, you're going to have a very difficult time keeping the ball landing shorter in the desired spot. So this here is the alternative, which is the hinge and fold. So as the club turns away here, you can see I'm going to hinge the club pretty similarly as I did in the last video, but on the way through impact, the only thing you can do to try and return the club back to that effective loft you had it set up is to fold. So the problem is when you come into impact folding the club face, that's going to then increase the loft. So the amount of timing it takes to make this a manageable technique and something that you can control consistently is very, very difficult. And again, it can be done, but it takes hours and hours and hours to master this technique. So the next video is just a close-up of the hinge and the hold that we talked about in the first video. And what you'll see here is the club comes down at a very steep angle and almost jams in at impact right there. You can see the camera even shuttered. So that ball's going to come flying off. So here's wide and shallow, the FLYT sleeve. Jason Day is probably the best example of this, Steve Stricker. You can see how wide our FLYT sleeve keeps the trail arm going back and engages the torso. And what this does is it keeps the club face wider and shallower and stops it from moving around. So this is taking the sleeve off, trying to replicate the same swing as I'd made with the sleeve on. So the club stays wide, shallow, there's not a lot of face rotation, makes it a lot easier to control the trajectory on a consistent basis. So this is just slowing it down, and the thing you're going to notice, aside from the club coming out a lot lower on the way back, is when it comes through impact, the bounce is just going to interact much better with the turf as opposed to the leading edge in the earlier video that you saw where we were doing the hinge and hold close-up where it jammed into the turf. So the club's going to return to impact here. See how it slides nicely through. There's no shutter of the camera. Body keeps moving. The club slides under the ball, no problem. So we're just going to finish with some examples here of some PGA Tour players that do a great job.